And we are going live on YouTube, so you guys can begin. You guys can begin now. It's being recorded, so we can.
Thanks, Daniela. And again, let me just thank you publicly for filling in for Bill this month. And it's cool that you could do this just to keep us going. Should be a pretty brief meeting tonight. There is a item on the agenda. I see Mr. Hilt has joined, by the way. And as far as I know, his pending project is the only one we have, unless he has a new one for us. So I'll call to order this August 1st, 2024 meeting of the Norwalk Shellfish Commission. And has attendance been taken?
Yes, I have taken attendance.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
I have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, gentlemen. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public comment. I see no public comment, but Chairman Dr. Pinto is in the attendees list. Danielle, if you wouldn't mind bringing Dr. Pinto over.
Yeah, I just promoted him to panelist, so he should be in any minute now.
Hey, you've done this before. Thank you. Hearing no requests for public comment. Do you have a treasurer's report for us? No problem if you don't, Daniela.
I do. It's very quick. There has been no activity since March 2024.
Okay, no problem. Secretary's report, no report. Move right into the committee reports. Again, if you would, Daniela, if you have anything from Department of Health.
Absolutely. So I have a health department update or report on rainfall. So the rainfall for July this year was 3.84 inches compared to last year, which was 7.38. I don't know if you guys remember the monsoons that we had all the weekends last year. We had two bypasses, one on July 12th at 6:42 p.m. that lasted for an hour. It was due to a broken pipe at County and Strawberry Hill Ave. The other bypass was on July 17th at 7:08 p.m. That lasted for 1 hour and 37 minutes and was at a treatment plant. In terms of closures, we did have closures on the 17th of July due to excessive rainfall exceeding 1.6 inches. And that is all.
Terrific. And if I could just add an addendum to that, I did have a member of the public contact me today for a strong smell of sewage at Cap Pasture Beach. And I wasn't able to go down there and investigate during my day job today. Wastewater treatment, no report. Mayor's Water Quality Committee obviously is still on hiatus. Any news on permits, Daniela? Again, it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update that Bill is going to pick up a check for permits issued thus far when he returns, and we'll be reporting on that for September.
Okay, and weather permitting, with the low tides this weekend, and now that we're finally open, sales should be pretty good this weekend, I would expect. I did leave a note over at the tackle establishment on the far East Norwalk side again on 136. I didn't hear back. We inquired last year as well, so we're certainly open to having them as a vendor in 2025. Police, I know I saw Sergeant Bisegli here.
Yep, hey Joseph. I was actually down at the beach today and did not notice anything. Granted, I was on the water, didn't notice any sort of smell or anything like that. So there's that. We've been pretty quiet. We had one anonymous complaint about illegal shellfishing during one of the closure periods out in Cops Bay. Very limited information from the text to tip. We weren't able to find anything substantial out there, so we didn't do anything with that because we had no really information to go on. Other than that, it's been all pretty quiet. Water temps sitting at like 73, 75, give or take.
Yeah, getting up there.
Yeah, for sure.
And thanks for the advisory too. And lastly, Norwalk Harbor Management Commission. And just scrolling through, I do see Dr. Pinto.
Oh, yes, present.
And I'm here too, Steve, Jeff.
Oh yeah, I see him. I see your number up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, either one can start. We
Well,
don't
we
have
just wanted to bring up
Jimmy
the issue. Yeah, thank you, Chairman Bartish. I just wanted to bring up the issue of a application that we had put on hold at the last commission meeting, and that was for 120 Wilson Avenue. It was a COP for maintenance dredging, and apparently the applicant plans to dredge approximately about 3,700 cubic yards of sediment from their dock area. And Mr. Hiltz was present at that meeting and said that and indicated there's some damage that was done in the last time that they had dredged that material with, I guess, the barge and the tug apparently ran over some shellfish areas. And so we put it on hold to sort of get comment back from the shellfish. And I'm wondering if you had received that application, Steve.
So did it come through as a COP, John?
Yes. Oh,
So-
that's sorry. You don't get COPs.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't.
All right. What I'll do
Yeah,
is
happy
send
happy
it.
to comment and look at that.
All right, send that to you.
Mr. Hiltz, do you happen to be the agent for that job?
Oh, no. He was making comment on behalf of Bloom Brothers, apparently,
I see.
who had an issue with regard to the previous tugboat and dredge barge that had done damage in that area. And I think the issue was to perhaps have some sort of discussion regarding a proper venue or proper path, or how they can perhaps maneuver the tugs, maybe with the guidance of the harbor master, et cetera, or marine police, or when they carry out that project. But
Understood.
sort of-
Understood. Yeah, I know that.
It's Jeff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Just with regard to the COP, it might be a good idea to write a letter to DEEP asking them to delay acting on this until the Shellfish Commission has had a chance to provide comments, because there's a minimal time period that DEEP.
Yes, on the COP, I think it's 45 days, I believe, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but they could extend it past that, but they could also approve it before 45 days.
Yeah.
So insofar as we really need the Shellfish Commission's input on this, it might be useful, John, if we write.
Yeah, I will. All right, I still have to get
to delay any decision.
Yeah, you still have to get the application letters out from the last two reviews that last two applications that we had reviewed. Yeah. So I'll add that.
Yes.
to the mix.
So just a quick
Right.
question, maybe before we leave that topic, is it clear that the footprint, if you will, of the new dredging project historically matches a previously approved footprint? Is that clear?
I'm going to make that assumption because that area was dredged previously.
Okay.
Yeah, and but I don't know what the circumstances were with regard to the previous, I guess, mismaneuvering, I guess, or the barges going over and scouring shellfish beds in that area. I'm not exactly sure exactly what had happened, but that was brought to our attention.
Well, they were
Okay.
staying, from what I understand, they were going in and then they stayed there. So low tide, they were laying on the bottom.
Well, that's obviously that's contrary to our policy with regard to discussions with the harbor master, so that the barges do not sit on the bottom for any appreciable tide length, and they
Right.
move out of that area during low tide.
Right, they gotta be moved by half tide over there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mr. Hiltz made the statement, though, that it was the route that the barges were taking to leave Wilson Cove that caused the damage. And then we had discussed talking about this with the Bureau of Aquaculture to see what sort of conditions could be placed in a COP approval concerning how the barge would leave the area. We haven't done that yet. But if we can get the letter off, John, asking if no
Yes, I'll do that.
decision be made until after the next Shellfish Commission meeting. In the meantime, we can conduct more research.
Yeah, I'll CC you on all those comments in the application, Steve. Or the shellfish.
Thank you. You guys happen to remember who the applicant was? Person and agency?
Water Dog LLC.
Okay.
is the applicant for 120 Wilson Avenue.
Got it.
Do you know if, Deep was notified the last time they did this and had the problem?
I don't know.
Just asking.
I believe they were, but we can double check on that because
Yeah.
Mr. Hill said a complaint was submitted the last time that this was dredged. And I don't know what the remedy may have been, but, but we can do more research
We'll
into this.
We'll investigate that and get that information to you.
Thank you. You guys could continue if you like.
That's all that I have for that particular.
All right. Well, I think John would want to comment on some of the things I might say
Yeah,
too.
well, yeah.
And I guess I'll start with the most significant matter, and that's the Eversource matter that we talked about at your meeting last month, at which time we had it was called a proposed draft final decision, which was signed by Deep and Eversource, and we talked about the concerns that we had with that because that proposed draft decision didn't mention the Harbor Management Commission. Talked about the proposal being consistent with the Harbor Management Plan and a number of other things that we talked about that were of concern, especially given all the time that we have spent reviewing both the Walk Bridge and the Eversource project. But there was no mention of the Harbor Commission or the Shellfish Commission in the proposed draft final decision submitted by both Deep and Eversource. At your meeting last month, there was an agreement that it would be appropriate for the Shellfish Commission and the Harbor Management Commission to jointly send a letter expressing concerns and asking questions about the decision. And we were discussing this at the Harbor Commission meeting 2 weeks ago or a week ago. And during the meeting, we received an email copy of the proposed final decision by the hearing officer, which is essentially the same decision as the draft that was proposed by Deep and Eversource. And so this final decision proposed by the hearing officer, along with that, was a 15-day period for not public comments, but comments from either of the parties, which is Deep and Eversource. So I think we have to just step back a bit, and now that we have this final decision, we're crafting a draft letter that was in response to the draft final decision, but it's essentially the same thing, but it may take a little bit more time and another review of it. But essentially, it's an approved project. And the hearing officer's decision also mentions the Harbor Management Commission once. It doesn't mention the Shellfish Commission at all. And then it states that Deep has determined that the project is consistent with the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan. Of course, that raises all sorts of issues. But I guess I'm a roundabout way of saying I don't have the letter yet to share with you for your approval, the joint letter, because since your last meeting, we have now this proposed final decision. So we're working on that, but it is quite troubling, as we said before. And maybe I need to belabor the point. John, do you have anything more that you'd like to add to that?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, Steve, this goes back to the issue that the Greenwich court case, as you recall, where the edict from this judge during this court case indicated that the Harbor Management Commissions do not have the authority to review applications to the state, and so that sort of negated the overall purpose of the Harbor Management Plan and certainly the Harbor Management Act, as given the municipalities certainly need to review anything that goes in and out of the, any work that goes in and out of our harbor. But probably more troubling is the fact that they don't consider the Harbor Commission or the Shellfish Commission having any more authority than just just any citizen would make comment. And I feel that's sort of really a slap in the face. And then the other thing too is that they mentioned that the information of anytime that we have to make any comment has to be explicitly indicated in the harbor management plan before any reasonable decision would be made. And that we argued the fact that we're not trying to run roughshod over the DEP and make any decisions over their decision, but that we certainly would require some sort of explanation as to why they chose a different act or different venue or different decision to make, so that we at least are familiar with and how we can handle certainly any dissension or any kind of contradictions that might come up in subsequent applications of that type, of why they made that particular decision. And that's all we were asking for, that they at least make comment as to why they chose a different tact or a different avenue.
So we'll craft this letter, Steve, and then if you don't mind me talking a little bit more here, that what John just mentioned is relevant in a couple of other matters too, because the Harbor Commission is in the process or beginning the process to update the harbor management plan. And we've talked about the most significant thing with respect to that update is to address this authority question. Otherwise, you could argue there's no real point to having a harbor management plan. And the authority also affects shellfish management, because the authority of the harbor management plan, the plan talks about the protecting and enhancing shellfish resources and incorporating the recommendations of the Shellfish Commission. So the plan, the decisions of the Harbor Commission and the recommendations pursuant to the plan can serve to advance your goals and objectives. But if it's DEEP feels that it has no weight, then what's the point? So anyway, we need to push this issue of the authority, and the next legislative session will be coming forward in another few months, and we really need everybody's support to try to clarify and modify or amend the harbor management statutes to make it clear that DEEP has to listen to the Harbor Commission's recommendations. That's one other point. The other point is that I guess that there was an update of Chapter 69 of the City Code, which is the Harbor Management Ordinance. And I guess when this was discussed by the Harbor Commission or proposed, the update was only to deal with mooring permit fees. But unbeknownst to us, the ordinance was sort of changed, updated in a comprehensive way, but without consulting the Harbor Commission. And I think, not to argue that some of the changes are, not correct, but it could have been, we could have achieved, some improvements, I think, if the commission had been involved. And it points out, I think, that if the city is going to update, ordinances that affect a municipal commission, that commission should be involved in the review of it. That's another point that I wanted to make. Also, I think I mentioned that the application to the Connecticut Port Authority for funds to rebuild the Veterans Park Marina, that was submitted on July 1st, and we were asking for about approximately $3.5 million from the state bonded funds from the Port Authority to redo the marina. Today, the city received its final approval necessary to do this work, which is the Army Corps of Engineers approval. So we received that final approval and sent it to the Port Authority, and therefore the grant application is complete, and hopefully we'll have a response or a positive response sometime in August. We also, John submitted or is about to submit today, there's this survey of dredging needs that's being conducted by the Army Corps of Engineers. This does not include the federal project dredging, but municipal projects. So we submitted, anticipated future dredging of the visitors dock area, and also the city has responsibilities for removing the contaminated material from the storm drain areas along Water Street.
Yeah, northwest and United Marine. Yeah.
And then there was one other thing I wanted to mention, the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative, which is now meeting again regularly, although the attendance isn't the greatest. But we learned at the last meeting that I don't know, I believe the Shellfish Commission, but certainly the Harbor Commission was very much involved when the Watershed Initiative was formed, 30 plus years ago. And the purpose behind, in large part, of the Watershed Initiative was because of the value of shellfish resources in Norwalk Harbor. And the idea was to look at runoff pollution on a watershed-wide basis. And I think this was the first watershed plan in Connecticut. But again, because of the potential impact of runoff and bacterial pollution on shellfish resources. So we were much involved in the development of the original plan. Now, through Sea Grant, there was $100,000 was allocated to update the watershed-based plan. And interestingly, no consultant bid on it because no one thought it was enough money, which is sort of an interesting comparison to years ago. And so we suggested that maybe you don't update the whole plan, but you do something beneficial with that money, maybe as an addendum or to do some analysis that would help implement the plan. And one thought we had was to give more thought to the use of DNA analysis to identify sources of bacteria in the watershed. So whether they're going to try to find more money to put the work out to bid again, or that perhaps they decide to use the money they have and do something less, comprehensive than the whole plan. We don't know yet, but that's another thing in the works. So anyway, thanks for letting me talk so much. I'll stop now.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And regarding the public notice of the potential changes to the harbor management plan, I think my read was clear that there's a jurisdictional issue here on the western side as far as the state-based 5 Mile River Commission is concerned. Yes. This document clearly listed at least the row 8 inside as being under the Harbor Management Commission should this be accepted. And 5 Mile River Commission is certainly it's a state body and quite valid and quite active.
Well, I think the law department took it upon themselves to review that, and they probably weren't versed in all of the nuances associated with where the jurisdiction lines.
But it's confusing, and that's our point, that if the commission had been consulted, we perhaps could have made some improvements in terms of the clarity of the ordinance. Because in one section, it identifies Norwalk Harbor and is including the 5 Mile River, which has always been the definition of the harbor. But then there's a section that says the Harbor Management Commission will be responsible for preparing a harbor management plan for Norwalk Harbor, which of course then that could lead someone to think that the plan should include the 5 Mile River area. Right. And then later on there's a section that talks about the 5 Mile River area being under the jurisdiction of the 5 Mile River Commission. So that's something that could have been, I think, clarified in a better way if we had been involved. But there's other things that are in there that also could have been improved, I think. For example, there's one section that talks about the applications and proposals subject to review by the Harbor Management Commission. And it states that it's proposals that are on properties adjoining the harbor. Now, the statute doesn't say that. The state statute says that the commission can review proposals that affect the properties on the harbor, which means an action that's removed from the waterfront could certainly affect the harbor and the shoreline. And I give a good example of it. At some point, I'm hoping that we get back to reviewing the applications for the Route 7 and Merritt Parkway interchange. That's not in Norwalk Harbor. It's not adjoining the harbor, but it certainly can affect the harbor in terms of how it deals with stormwater. So there were things in that ordinance that I think we could have contributed to making an improvement with, but.
Well, I don't think that's irreparable, Jeff. You know, we can certainly go back and revisit that, you know, and that, certainly at our instigation, I think the Harbor Commission certainly has certainly a little bit of say in maybe having the law department revisit that and sit down with them in a more, you know, formal manner.
And then there's also the beginning, I don't know what the status of it is, but the commission has agreed to update the harbor management plan, as I mentioned earlier. And that's where some of this stuff can come up, but most importantly, you know, to assert the commission's authority and to confront the DEP with it and force them to address this matter, especially if it can be done in coordination with all the other towns that are updating their plans. But again,
I want to mention the mayor of New London is actually forcing the DEP's hand to make sure that they incorporate some of the verbiage that we've had in the past in their plan, in their updated plan.
But again, not to take up the Shellfish Commission's time with harbor management stuff, but I think it's directly relevant to advancing shellfish management goals as well. The recommendations of the Harbor Commission can support the Shellfish Commission's recommendations and goals for protecting and enhancing shellfish resources. And dealing with such things as when applicants propose to dredge through the natural shellfish beds to get to deeper water, like our project we reviewed several years ago. Thanks, Steve.
Oh, thank you, Jeff, and thanks, John. Great report, as always, and very important stuff. That ends the committee reports. If I may have a motion to accept them as presented.
I make a motion, Pete Johnson.
Thank you, Pete. And a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Jordan. And all in favor?
Aye.
Committee reports pass. Old business on the agenda, we have a 28 Shorefront Park. I know that Mr. Hiltz is the agent for that. John, we didn't get out to see it yet. I think that it's on our nearby agenda, and we will. You have anything about that or something else for us tonight?
I think I sent you Dave Carey's comments on it about the, restricting the time of work.
Yep.
Yeah, and so there's that.
I received them also, John. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's you're probably pretty familiar with the site, but I'm happy to wait for your visit. So if anything is untoward or of concern, by all means. But no, nothing new to add. I know Harbor Management's looked at it, and just waiting for you guys to confer and get back to me.
Well, we'll get it done.
Okay.
John, you want to add anything with respect to your client, Captain Bloom, just while we're all together?
Oh, on the Wilson Cove matter?
Yes, sir.
Pardon. I talked to Norm after the Harbor Management Commission meeting, and he was definitely, glad that you guys are, looking into that. And, again, I think the follow-up from the last episode really put the onus upon, I think it was Tim Kramer's grounds that got the worst of it. And it really, the DEP didn't really take much interest in, for example, enforcing anything or penalizing anybody as a result. And, when I saw this application, I did contact, I think it was Brian Golemdusky, and just basically said, hey, we had problems here last time. Can you guys put a little bit more tighter restrictions on it? Can you ask for bonding, something like that? And they didn't seem really, interested in doing that. So it's, I mean, if you read the terms and conditions of any approval of this nature, obviously they tell you, don't do damage, basically.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. But, and I understand, I understand the viewpoint of the dredger. I mean, they have to make money in a very constrained window. They have to, get, they're fighting tides. They're, looking for ways to cut corners. And unfortunately, in this instance, they cut a corner that several times that went across somebody's ground. So That's really what it comes down to. So, and again, I mean, it's, people, from a contractor point of view, I understand their reticence to tell a client, potentially, hey, look, we're going to be constrained in certain ways, and that's going to, add cost to the job because they don't want to lose the job. But at the same time, people have to understand that, in order to get their marinas dredged, they just can't have somebody's shellfish grounds become, a cut through.
Yep.
So that's really what it comes down to.
Thanks, John. Any objection in terms of sediment testing by your client?
No, I think I mean, if they're at the point where they're able to get to an application, they've done so. I don't know how familiar you are with the process, but basically, by the time you submit that certificate of permission application, you've already submitted the test, examples, data to the Army and the DEP. And, they've made a determination about whether or not, they're willing to allow it to go in water.
Yeah, the applicant had it was mentioned that the dredge material, the material, I should say, disposal has been approved for unconfined open water disposal.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I can go to Western probably. So
Right, and that's exactly where it's going.
yeah.
They,
And
they didn't mention any need for cap.
Yeah. So
That's good news.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Questions for Mr. Hiltz? Hearing none, that'll close old business. There is no new business on the agenda. We won't be together until Labor Day. Anyone have anything to say before we adjourn? And again, hearing none, I'll gladly accept a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, Pete Johnson.
Thank you, Pete. And a
John
second.
Page, seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Pagler, and all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks so much. John Hiltz will be in touch, okay?
All right. Thank you, Steve. Have a good rest of your summer, everybody.
You too.
Thank you
Take
all.
care.
Thanks, Daniela. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.